All right, the first item is comments on the amendments to the use regulation to allow conditional use of construction equipment the use of construction equipment rental, sales and service in the Highway Services District, HS1. Do we have any comments? Come on up, state your name on the microphone. And
Ty Weaver. I'm the Southern Utah Sales and Service Rep for them, Rasmussen Equipment. And last time we were here, you guys asked how much mechanic work I do. And I looked at all what we do, and I do maybe 20% in the shop, and the rest is out in the field. Mostly is what we'd be doing in there is rental, check-ins, services, maybe some hydraulic repair inside that area.
So you do field service?
Yes, we do field service. I actually have 2 trucks, but only me to run them.
Okay. That's good to know.
so is that to say you're not really open for hire for mechanical repair?
Oh, we'll work on anything except for cars.
Okay, all right. Any other comments, questions?
Well, yeah, so this is a time for the public to make comment. You're a member of the public, you're making your comment. This isn't really the us asking you
That's-
questions.
okay.
This is for just any member of the public that has a concern or a comment to make a comment.
That's the only,
We'll then discuss it as a council, and we'll probably have you
Okay.
come back up and ask
that
your
was the
questions.
only comment I had is
Okay.
going back through, this is what we did. Okay, thanks.
Good clarification.
Any other comments from the board? Okay, at this point, the public hearing is closed for item A. And we'll move on to item B. This is amendments to the use regulations table 1536.020 to allow for the permitted use of manufactured home sales in the general commercial zone, GC1. Any comments related to this topic?
So, Rody Swanson here. Hello to all of you again. And I swore I wasn't gonna be nervous until I was sitting right there and saw all of you guys. But my wife and I have been working really hard in the last couple of weeks. We do have a marketing brochure that I'd like to hand out. We're still working on them, so be a little patient with us. They're not the best. And then our website is also on the card, here that I'll hand out. And there's a QR code that will take you right to our website.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Got it.
Wait, no, this
Thank
is
you so
highway
much.
services, this is commercial.
Oh, perfect, thank you. Brody, I'm not gonna talk over you, but, on our agenda, it says permitted, and in our minutes from last week, we said conditional use. Is there,
No, that's correct. I've got that to take care of, and I'll make that correct
Okay.
announcement here.
Okay.
And we'll
'kay,
We'll address the minutes.
Yeah, that's an error on the agenda.
okay,
So,
Sorry.
yeah, the public notice and the agenda are inaccurate. Last week when we discussed this, we talked about making this a conditional use, not a permitted use. And somehow we got wires crossed and posted that incorrectly. I just wanna be clear, we're looking for a recommendation or not for permitted, conditional use.
And I'll go with either way as long as I'm able to do it.
Thank you.
Yep, thank you.
So instead of an N going to a P, it will be an N going to a C if it's
Right.
granted.
So what you're looking at on the screen up here, just for everybody, so we're looking at the commercial zone, GC1, and right now, can you go back to the top of that so we can see the headings briefly? So the way this table is interpreted, we have permitted uses and so on in this table, and it's alphabetized. And you're looking in the the second column, beyond the description, you're looking at general commercial, and highway services is also carried on this list. Industrial manufacturing, 1 and 2 are also in the last couple of columns. So what we're proposing or discussing here, now we can go back down to, thank you. So under manufactured home sales, it right now has an N for not permitted. And what we're taking comments on is a change to this that would put a C in that spot where the N is in the first column, that would say we are allowing conditional use. And just while we're waiting for anybody for comments, conditional use means we'll consider it consider a conditional use to permit it with conditions, or not. If there's, challenges to the application and concerns about who knows what, it could be noise, it could be trash, it could be any number of things. And the intent by the planning commission would be to look at that and have discussions to figure out how to best mitigate those concerns. If we can mitigate those concerns, then it's likely that we would recommend the conditional use permit. And then that would go to city council, that recommendation, and ultimately city council would vote.
No, conditional use permits don't go to city council. Only a PUD
Oh, that's right.
and
Well,
a manufacturing home, a mobile home park.
you're right, so let me back up. This recommendation tonight will go to city council.
Yes, 'cause that
City
changes.
council will approve whether it goes to a conditional use or not. And then planning and zoning would be the next round after that. Thanks, Dan.
Yep, sorry. It's confusing, 'cause we're updating our code to make it possible to do a conditional use permit. Assuming our code gets updated, then you can apply for a conditional use permit. We'll come back to this body to do it.
Yeah, thank you. All right, any other comments from anybody? Okay, at this point, we will close the public hearing for this topic.
He got nervous for no reason.
All right, the next item is adopting Appendix A of Parowan City Municipal Code 1542, the Historic Preservation Overlay District. So what we're doing here is Appendix A is are the real details about what the Historic Preservation Commission is looking for when an application comes before them. And this is a guide for that. Some of the big changes were the last version of this document only applied to commercial uses. It now applies fully to residential and commercial. Dan, do you remember any of the other changes that,
Well, we just didn't ever have this officially adopted. So it sets forward the architectural and site design guidelines, which has some guidelines for architectural design. It goes into approved building materials. It talks about some of the things that may be prohibited. It goes into roof design, mechanical screening, talks about awnings and canopies, parking areas, landscape, pedestrian amenities, fencing standards, site lighting, sign regulations, and that's pretty much it. At one point, the consideration was to adopt a document that would have been much more involved. We looked at Logan City and so forth. the Historical Preservation District really wanted to go back to their original document that they had been using that had never officially been adopted, and then instead modify it. So this is the now modified version of that, which we talked about last time in detail. But of course, this is a chance for the public to get their input on it.
Any comments on Appendix A?
I didn't see anything about paint in there.
Exterior colors.
Okay.
So, but this is the public. We'll discuss it as a commission later in the agenda.
Right.
This is just for public comment.
Okay, I'm taking that as a no comment, and we'll close the public hearings at this point.
Do we need to make a motion?
Yes.
Make a motion that we close the public hearing and open into our regular planning and zoning meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries, thank you. All right, we're now into our regular planning and zoning meeting. Any conflicts with any of the items on the agenda?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
Thank you. All right, our first item to discuss is the amendments to the use table regulations, Parowan City Code 1538.020, to allow for the conditional use of construction equipment rentals, sales and service in the Highway Services District. HS1. Comments?
I just think we should put that on as a conditional use.
Pardon me?
I think we should just change that to conditional use.
Well,
This
it
one
is,
was.
yes.
This
It
one is.
It is.
It's the other one that isn't.
So what is it right now under? Sorry,
Not permitted.
not permitted, okay.
Right.
Right.
So we're talking this one, and on the agenda, it said that this one was to switch it to conditional use is what was entertained.
Yeah, I would still wanna switch that to conditional use.
I thought you meant we needed to fix the agenda, but that's the other one that was wrong.
Yeah, no, sorry.
Farther down.
Yeah, I think it's better than permitted use, 'cause if you do permitted use, then you're opening the doors up for everybody and huge heavy equipment.
Anybody else? In that case, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we give a positive recommendation to City Council to amend the use regulations table 1538-020 to allow for the conditional use of construction equipment, rental, service, sales and services in Highway Services District, HS1.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'm opposed. The ayes carry it. Thank you. There's our agenda. Okay, moving right along to the next item, in what was the public hearing. This is the amendment to allow the use regulations table 1536.020 to allow for the conditional use of manufactured home sales in the general commercial zone, GC1. Paramount City Code 15.36. Comments from the board?
Once again, I think we should change it to conditional use.
You got me confused.
Any other comments? All right, I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we give a positive recommendation to city council to amend the use regulations table, 36 dash, 020 to allow for the conditional use of manufactured home sales in the general commercial zone GC1.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The ayes have it, thank you. And the last one of those, we're open for discussion on adopting Appendix A.
Maybe, could we pause for just a second?
You bet.
I've gotta do a better job of communicating with the people that we deal with. So just so you know, the next step, this will go on city council agenda, which is next Thursday, for them to, they don't have to have a public hearing, they can choose to if they want to, but they will look at it and make a decision, yea or nay. If they do, then it'll be changed by ordinance and we'll update our code. Then you can come in and actually get a conditional use permit, start the process to get a conditional use permit. Yep, next Thursday would be, that would be good, 'cause the city council, we've been dealing with it a lot. Dave is on city council and he knows about it, but the others don't. John is in the back, he's a member of our public, but he's from the city council. But the other three and the mayor won't maybe know as much. And so, if you could come to discuss it, and if you can only come online, I can make a Zoom call available and so feel free, but that's the next step if you wanna follow the process and be there for answers, so. Don't feel like you need to stay for the whole rest of our meeting, 'cause now we're moving on. that's all I wanted to say, so. 6 o'clock.
6 o'clock,
Next Thursday.
That's a week from tomorrow.
the second and the fourth Thursday of the month. So you'll be the fourth.
Yep, that's city council.
We're the first and the third Wednesdays, they're the second and fourth Thursdays.
Thanks for this information too about the houses.
Mhm.
Okay, we're back, we're on, I think we're talking about Appendix A. I don't think there were any comments on Appendix A?
No,
So Dan made the corrections that we discussed at the last meeting, so it should be a clean document now. I'd entertain a motion at this point.
we all look at Heather.
You all look at me.
You're the motion queen.
You're the motion queen.
Yep. I make a motion that we give a positive recommendation to city council to adopt Appendix A of Parowan's Code 15.42, the Historic Preservation Overlay District.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, thank you.
Do you just want me to keep going?
Not yet.
Okay.
All right, our next item is the approval of the minutes from March 6th, 2024.
And I think you had a comment, Larry, about, some changes that were going to be made on the minutes.
Yes. So on page 5 of the minutes, so we're basically in the definitions section that we were working on towards the end of the meeting when we were hashing some things out. So what we ended up with in the minutes, the motion was to strike the new definition of modular home and keep the current code definition of modular home under 1504-76, and it was seconded and it was passed. Now, it's not clear to me whether this is a typo, because I didn't go back and try and re-listen to the minutes, but 1504-76 is an incomplete citation. It would have to be 1504.020-76 to be correct. And I am suggesting that we approve that change. If you're uncomfortable with that, we'll have to go back and look at it. And then the other change is, same page, down a couple sentences, we also, it says, the motion was to change Parowan City Code 1504.35. The reality is it would be 1504.020-35, dwelling unit to state. And again, same kind of an error, we're really just inserting the .020 in there to complete the citation. Any other comments or changes to the minutes?
I found none.
Mm-mm.
Okay, I would entertain a motion at this point.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes from March 6th, 2024 with the corrections, stated from Larry.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Stacy, have you got those captured?
Just put an 020.
Yeah, it should be 15.04. It'd be, I think it's a dash 76 or something, yeah, or something like that. And then the other one, the same thing, insert.
15 point, right.
And we'll take care of it. Thank you. Well, we just zoomed right along. I may have to tap dance after all.
We'll be out of here before 6.
Oh, come on now, Jerry.
Our next item is the, external ADU discussion. And if you remember last week when we discussed that, we were on definitions. We didn't complete definitions. And I think I asked all of you to take a look at that and come back with some suggestions and so on. I'm assuming you did so. And I also brought back definitions, and I gave you a handout. Stacy, I think or Dan, I guess we need to put that up. And, yeah. Mayor? We gave you the handout there.
Is that the right thing on the screen?
Yes, it is. So I want to zip down through that, down to where it says single family. So the format of this document, if you'll take a look at it, in bold and black print are definitions that I am proposing. And the things in yellow are things that we already agreed on in the last meeting. So let's work through those, and rather than take them in order, I'd like it if you'd go to page 2. And take a look at definition 1504.020-69 that we approved last week. So the language that we used last week was to take this definition number 69 and use it and extract numbers 1 and 2 from the mobile home code and add them to this definition. And we all agreed to do that. Then when I got to looking at what we had actually done in the minutes, I realized that number 2 is not really a definition. It is a requirement. It actually belongs in the code. And not under the definition part of the code. And my suggestion is that we make a motion to fix that and put number 2 back into the mobile home code in Title 15, probably 46, I think.
Should we clarify what it is, 15?
Yes, we need to, and I don't have it memorized, so we'll probably have to bring it up. Can you
Sorry.
do that?
Sorry, I just got a text and it sidetracked me. What do you want me to bring up?
1546, that's a mobile home.
John, do you have a copy of this? You ought to have it, do you?
Yeah, there we go. So, we were to delete the definition, if I remember right. I think we can look at the minutes.
Yeah, we were gonna delete it from this section of the code
Right,
and put it up in the definitions section
right.
and modify it.
So, in that regard, so in 1546, the way it stands now, if it makes it through, if that recommendation were to make it through city council, number 2 is gonna move up into definitions in a different part of our code. My recommendation is that we leave number 2 in there and it becomes, we probably need to integrate it into the code down below 1546.030 at the bottom of the screen there.
I'm just seeing
Oh.
what would the next available spot be, and that would be 070.
It might fit in just
Unless you
right.
left it at 03 or 020 and you just changed it from
Uh,
definition to whatever this does.
Let's see what it says. Set of Corning. I'm thinking it'd fit under 030. Like, can you bring that so we can read it? Read that? And then what's below that? 030, farther down. What do we think about fitting that into 1546.030 and making a A and a B there? Or a 1 and a 2, whichever would be the most appropriate.
Yeah, I like that.
Thank you.
So as I read through number 2, it's describing the mobile home.
Well, it's telling how they'll be set.
So you think that fits under location and use pretty good then?
I think it could. I think it's a
I'm not disagreeing, I'm just making sure that
yeah.
does that fit under that?
I
heading.
think that kind of stands alone as its own statement. And
We could just have you can have a separate paragraph. You can have a paragraph and then a second paragraph.
okay.
Doesn't have to be labeled AB. If it would be labeled AB if it was kind of a heading and then it was underneath the other one as though it was like a
Oh,
part of it. But if it's a little different but still under location and use, we just put a separate paragraph underneath that other paragraph there.
for me, the big thing is not so much the format as it is getting it in the right
Getting it
spot.
there, yeah.
And I'm okay with just it being a paragraph that continues on. Any other comments? Well, in that case, I'd entertain a motion.
Can you scroll down just a smidge?
This way?
No, I'm sorry. Yes, thank you.
Just moving it from 020 to 030, correct?
Yeah.
Oh,
Or are we just leaving it as a paragraph?
Just moving it.
Well, if we leave it as a paragraph, we'll still move it under 1546.03.
We have,
Oh,
It'll be the
okay.
second
we,
paragraph,
I
just
think
so
I
we
can do,
have a one-
I make a motion that we move, number 2 from 1546.020 to 1546.030. I mean, is it that simple or no?
I think so.
I think, and remove the number.
Yeah, well, we mentioned paragraph numbered 2, moving it from 1546.020 to 1546.030, location and use.
All right, so we have a motion on the floor. Do I have a second?
Second it.
All in favor?
Aye?
Aye.
Aye. The motion carries. Thank you.
Oh,
Okay, let's back up and see where we can get to this next one. So all of these definitions, I just want to be clear, I've done a lot of research online and looking at what other cities have and what they're doing and where they're going, and I'd like to also point out that this is mainly in regards to ADUs, both internal and external, and ultimately to short-term rentals. And so if we're looking at this and we're going, man, why are we adding all these definitions? It's because we don't have any code that addresses either three of those topics at this point. And so to get set up to write the code, we need some definitions that'll allow us to go forward. And with that, we have the definition for single family. Now this is an example that came from the city of Orem. It actually had, there's 4 different groups here, I guess, that meet the requirement in this definition for family. However, in the Orem original definition, there was another 2, and one of them related to students that were at the university, and I thought, well, we don't have that problem. And then the other one was for a specific zone that we do not have, and so I deleted that one and left it at these 4. And I think, certainly we're open for comments, suggestions, modifications.
Can we pull up what we currently have, please?
We don't have one.
We don't have anything.
We have none.
Nothing, okay.
We do use that term throughout our code. And again, where this will come into play will be under short-term rentals and ADUs. And we start talking about single families and what does that mean. And it could also come into play in other areas of our code, but that'll be the primary place.
In our code currently, isn't single family just a definition of a dwelling, not necessarily
Quantity.
defining
Oh.
what a single family is?
Might be. Let's bring it up and see. We might need to realign some things. Dan?
Sorry, I have a city council member texting me, so I apologize. Say it again, I apologize. What do I need to
Single
read?
family,
In definition, so it's probably 1504.
and going down to
Under F?
30, 31, 32, I mean,
Okay.
single family is referring to a type of dwelling, not defining what a single family is.
I suspect we're okay there. It's talking about a type of dwelling. It's not trying to define what the family is. This definition is defining what the family can be.
Yeah, I'm feeling a little uncomfortable with that, but
Which part?
defining what a single family is.
Yeah, and so I looked at a number of them, and Larry and I exchanged emails. Orem Cities was the one that I found, A, most inclusive, and B, the clearest to read. Some of them, you went down the rabbit hole, and by the time I was done, I didn't know what a single family was. The definition, while objectionable to many on trying to define perhaps socially what a single family is, I don't know that in 2024 any of us know what that is, but this is solely for purposes of zoning and trying to define who can live, you know, in one residence. I guess there's a house out in Boulder where, I think 2 elections ago, 38 people voted from the same house. And they claimed they were all a single family. They were, I think, a bunch of, federal workers, but they were family and they treated each other as family, but I don't know that it was, you know, for that purpose. So this is solely to be applied in the context of what is a dwelling. What is a single family for purposes of zoning, Euclidean zoning?
Yeah, because otherwise
So
you could put an
one-
apartment building in R1 and say it's just a single family that's living there.
So-
You realize why it matters. I get why it's a sticky conversation, but you're describing the nature of the housing, and you can't do that without doing some sort of definition of family. Otherwise, somebody could say, well, that's what my family is. Right? Are we saying the same thing?
Yes, we're saying the same thing. You said it quicker and clearer than I did.
Well, can we,
You said it more eloquent.
well, can we use stove as defining single? So, one unit that can only contain one stove?
There's a lot of single-family residences that have multiple kitchens and,
Yeah.
you know, some nice
It's
big
not
houses.
kitchen, I'm not talking about,
Well, you wouldn't have a kitchen without well, some people would, I guess.
no, I mean, you can have I just,
Well, if I understood what you asked, I think a single-family residence could have 5 stoves in it if they wanted to.
Many as they'd like.
It doesn't change.
If they're in the bakery business.
Yeah, well, I mean, we're not gonna regulate how many stoves you can have in your residence.
Can you just,
well,
can you simply say the number of occupants? Could it be that simple? Could you?
not in Utah.
And I don't think so. Not from what I've read.
Okay.
So what is the general difficult approach that Orem came up with? If you could summarize that.
Well, there's-
Well, you have it in front of you there.
yeah, there's several.
Yeah,
Yeah.
An individual living alone or 2 or more people who are related to one designated occupant, 3 or more related or unrelated individuals who live and cook together as a single housekeeping unit, 2 unrelated individuals, any other children with them, living as a single housekeeping unit.
So as a starting place, is that something that sounds good?
It's,
Yeah.
yeah,
I think
Covers
so.
it.
you're certainly,
I
there's a
just
lot of
don't like
open
defining-
options here, you know.
All right, well, at this point, I would entertain a motion.
And what we're entertaining is trying to incorporate this definition into our,
Our table of
Our
definitions
code.
in 1504.020.
1504.020. I move that we incorporate Orem's definition of single
I
family.
wouldn't say that.
yeah.
Shall I just read it all?
Yeah. I would.
Yes, or you could reference this handout, if you're gonna use it verbatim.
That would be faster, right?
Yeah.
Make a motion that we, with reference to the handout that we're reading, that we use the definitions, we discussed as the definition for single-family under our code number 1504020.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
easy peasy.
Any opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries. Thank you. All right, the next definition that we encounter is single-family limit. And in this definition, that means the number of unrelated individuals allowed to occupy each residential unit that is recognized by the Parowan Land Use Authority in a zone permitting occupancy by a single family.
Oh, wow.
So what you can end up with in in a code or in an ADU or potentially a short-term rental is you can have a single family that's quite extended, but you can also have a number of, some limited number of individuals that are not related. And that's generally 2 or 3 in the state of Utah.
Could we just use the fire code to cap the head count?
Do you have it? Can we look at it?
I don't, but I'm sure that.
That's an interesting point, Weston. Yeah, there's gotta be some fire code there, you can't have over X amount of people in a single dwelling.
Per square foot or bedroom or something to that effect.
Oh, is that, where do we reference that information?
Well, think about how you want that to read without being able to look at it. And you could string on here and say, in no case shall the number of individuals allowed in a single-family unit exceed.
What's currently in our fire code.
Yeah, is it our fire code or the national fire code?
Or is it state?
State, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm
It's
asking.
state, but we don't know if they regulate that. We'd have to look.
They sure do on apartment buildings.
They do for, certain things.
Hotels.
Assisted living facilities, commercial applications. I'm scanning, I'm trying to find.
State fire code.
I don't know. Are you looking it up, Dan?
I actually like that approach if it exists, if it's there.
I'm seeing, child daycare. I'm seeing child care facilities. Assisted living facilities.
So they do base their code, as Weston was saying, in number of people per square foot generally. I wonder if we
Yeah, there's got to be some
Zero
regulation
in on
somewhere.
that.
I mean, you know, I have 80 people living in my house, that would be,
Right.
you know what I'm saying?
right.
Even if it's not specific for a single family, we could probably borrow something from, like,
Does,
apartment building.
Health Department have any quotas?
I don't know. I didn't go down that path.
I mean, it's just an idea.
Yeah, no, that's good. Somebody's gotta have some regulation there somewhere, I mean,
Yeah, well, so this could take us some time. What do you think of
Dig
if
into it.
Weston is willing to take that as a task,
That'll
back
teach me to open my mouth, won't it?
to the next meeting
insert,
with a recommendation regarding the use of fire code. And then I think what we would do is we would use this single-family limit definition as the basis and string on to that. But I think we would have to take the word unrelated out.
You could call this, the state fire marshal would know off the top of his head. Dave, our local fire chief, might know.
And I'll help you if you call me and,
Yeah, I'll find out.
I
I'll have an
searched,
answer.
I searched the word occupancy in the state fire code, and I found 26 references, and every one of them was in regards to a commercial application, so that's all I could find on a cursory search.
yeah. Okay, well, I'd entertain a motion then at this point. That regards tabling this
Yeah.
definition and bringing it back to the
Wanna
next
give that a
meeting.
try, Heather?
I make a motion that we, table, the definition of single-family limit and bring it back to next meeting.
I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Weston, we're counting on you.
Thanks, Winston.
Thank you. Okay, the next one, as you'll see, we finished a dwelling unit. I put it there for reference, so you know what we agreed to last time. And then, residential unit. So, my comment is that we use the city code from 710-080 in definitions in that, particular title, and change the one word in number 2, which is on page 2, and to add duplexes.
The only thing I would say about that is that usually we say single family, dual family, or multifamily, and you're taking a duplex, which is a dual family, and putting it under multifamily. Are you not, or am I wrong?
Well, I was looking at the string of commas there, and to me, it addressed every single thing except duplexes. Each half of a duplex is a single-family unit.
But that's just generally 'cause usually you have your single family, two family, and then multifamily. Is usually all of those things more than two. Your apartments, condominiums, and so forth and so on. There's kind of like those three classifications. That's why I was like,
Okay, well, I'm
That-
not hard over on that. If you think that's got it covered, then we wouldn't have to change that.
So we don't need to be more specific than multi.
Question.
Yes, Heather?
You're talking 710
Right.
is subdivision water assessments?
Right, that's where that definition is.
71080 residential I'm not seeing it, that's why I'm asking.
You're not seeing it?
Oh, right here. 71080, there's no, I don't see residential.
and then we're putting duplex into.
So I don't know if you're referencing the wrong
Yeah,
thing here, so that's why I was asking. I was looking at the,
I might have missed that.
so this residential unit definition that you are talking about changing, is it located in 1504
Yeah, do we have a current?
definitions?
We haven't,
Resident,
we don't have a definition for residential unit.
No, we don't.
And just to make note, in real estate, when we're using real estate terms, we use the single-family homes and multi-family. We don't use like two-family.
Right.
matters
Unfortunately, our
or not,
code,
but-
most of these, I've looked in our code to see whether we have anything that covers
ask
this, and whether we use the words or not.
Yeah, don't.
And at this point, I would just say, trust me, it's there.
Make the Bible.
I'm just trying to figure out where you're working off of. Residential unit, use our current code, but changing one word. And so I'm just trying to figure out where you were working off of, that's all. 'Cause
Yeah,
it's not seven,
I looked at what you showed me, and I agree.
Yeah. so that's all. I was just trying to figure out where you were working off of.
Well, let's work this
Yeah.
this way. If that definition works, without the word duplex in it, as Dan is suggesting, I'll table it and bring it back, and I'll find out where I got that reference. If it doesn't work, now is a good time to put it to sleep.
I mean, pretty much everywhere else we refer to single family, dual family, multifamily dwellings. is residential units different than dwellings? Is it the reason is because it comes out of the new state code on internal ADUs that they refer to the words residential units?
Yeah,
I'm
you might
suspecting
check our
that's where
code.
that's coming from.
Did you do a search on our code for residential unit?
Apparently I hurt its brain. Oh, it's grabbing everything.
You're under the close matches.
It says exact matches,
Uh-oh,
but it's
just
finding
passed something.
either or, and it's finding the word residential in all those places.
That's something that said residential up there.
I don't know with our search.
It's pretty good. You went too fast when you scrolled.
Yeah, you
Well,
passed something.
every time residential was showing up, it was showing up as an item.
Because that's the close matches.
Okay,
It does
no.
exactly.
Once I put it in parentheses, it does the exact residential unit, and it gets us these.
So you'll find the words residential unit in every one of those pieces of code there, including 3 of them that one of them's in a definition. How about that?
Yep, it's in under apartments. The second iteration is under
There's one
master
right
plan zone.
there under B,
Well, that one doesn't even have a space.
A.
And development standards within, I'm guessing, master plan zone. So these 2, are master plan zones, and then the only other place it shows up is in the definition of apartment.
Right. And again, we're writing new code for some other things, and we're liable to encounter that. I'm not sure if we view that as a problem to add a definition. If we don't use it, well, clearly we're using the words already, so the definition can't hurt.
Right.
And then it's available for future use.
As long as it
if
doesn't
we
make
need
it confusing.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, would it be easier or better to, cause there's just 3 places where residential unit, do we make it dwelling so it's compatible with what we currently have?
Well, again, I'm saying, if we could do that, yes. From my perspective, the challenge with doing simply that is that it doesn't allow us to use that definition as we go forward with ADUs, IADUs, and short-term rentals.
Well, why couldn't, in all 3 of those cases, they just be residential or dwelling, short-term rental dwelling, or short, ADU?
You didn't do your homework, I'm thinking.
Oh, maybe.
I'm not saying we couldn't do that, but I would say again what I said at the last meeting. Take this home and bring me back a suggestion that we can talk about, and we'll vote on it. And if you'd like to do that, I'm open for that.
I like what you have down here.
Weston?
Do we wanna be specific and say subdivision?
I was hung up on that a little bit too in my head.
Cause a lot of things aren't in the subdivision. Change it
Just
any.
in a single family residence.
Well, it does say subdivision in one, in a subdivision involving
Yeah, we're
single-family
saying-
residences.
But single homes are built outside of subdivisions. Does that make,
Would that exclude them from whatever we're trying to do?
Potentially, I'm okay with deleting, subdivision and just say single family residences.
That works.
Any objections to that?
No?
What if you just said in an R1 zone?
Oh.
'Cause that's what it's trying to do, is talk about in areas where it's supposed to be single-family residences. And they're calling it in a subdivision, but to us, that would apply to anything in an R1 zone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe that's the way to do it.
So the recommendation is to take out subdivision and just say in an R1 zone?
I mean, we have single-family residences though in commercial zones and stuff like that though too, so does that make it more of a problem though?
It's true.
Yeah,
I just like in single-family residences. I mean, that's pretty clear and concise with it.
actually, I like that too. Does that create a problem, Dan?
So you're saying within a single-family residence, a residential unit shall mean
Mm-hmm.
each single-family residence or lot, you're within the residence, any single-family resident or lot designated for construction, doesn't make any sense. In single-family residences, a unit shall mean each single-family residence or lot designated.
I get that.
You could say, regarding single-family residences, a unit shall mean, you're not within the residence, and then back out to talk about the lot and construction of a new residence. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Regarding single-family residences, a unit shall mean each single-family residence or each lot designated for construction of a single-family residence, excluding accessory dwelling units.
All right, so I think any comments on that, any objections to that language?
No.
So it would read, regarding single-family residences, a unit shall mean each single-family residence or each lot designated for construction of a single-family residence, excluding accessory dwelling units.
Mm-hmm.
And then be consistent and say regarding multifamily developments
There you go.
on the next one, just to be consistent.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Here we go. I'd entertain a motion at this point.
I make a motion, we modify the terminology in residential unit shall mean number one, eliminating the word in a subdivision involving and replacing it with regarding. Number two, eliminate the word in, replacing it with the word regarding.
what
And
was
adopt
this,
that,
Pardon me?
and adopt that into.
And adopt that into the code.
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 And just as a point of clarification, that would go in 1504.020.
150402.
Then the next one is a really long one, definable living area. Means a living area that meets the definition of a dwelling unit. And the dwelling unit definition is on page 1 at the bottom.
Page which?
One at the bottom.
Dwelling unit, there it is.
In yellow.
Yeah. More rooms in a dwelling, apartment,
Wait, where are we at?
apartment, motel.
Up?
First page, bottom of the first
I
page.
thought that you had said that that was done.
It is.
It is.
Okay.
So what we're saying is, farther down the page there, we have, the next definition to work on is a definition for definable living area.
Oh, yep.
The proposed definition means a living area that meets the definition of a dwelling unit. And so they were back up looking at that definition of dwelling unit on page 1.
I like that, 'cause then they
Yeah.
can both, yeah, 'cause it both reinforces each other.
Hang on though, is the purpose of defining the living area to designate between what is living area versus like garage space? You know what I mean? Where we have like square footage requirements, minimum square footage requirements, if you're defining that as living area square footage versus something like garage space. Like, let's say we have a thousand, 'cause in the one zone, we have we have a 1,000 square foot minimum living area. And if they say, well, yeah, I have an 800 square foot garage and a 200 foot closet, then unless you kind of, you know what I'm saying?
Well,
I'm wondering if that's the function of this.
It's a definition, you could use it however you wanted, but if what you just described, that residence would not meet the definition of a definable living area. It's too small. The garage is not a definable living area.
Where does it say that?
What?
What you just said?
Well, are you gonna define a garage as a living area? No toilet, no bathroom, no kitchen, and you gotta...
I agree with you, but that sentence doesn't say that. It says, means a living area that meets the definition of a dwelling unit. So does
Okay,
dwelling
so
unit
go
solve
look
that?
at dwelling unit, keep going right there, whoa.
It doesn't say anything about a garage, excluding garage space.
Well, you can convert a garage to an ADU,
Right, you turn it into living area.
but as a garage, it's not definable living area because it doesn't meet the requirements of a dwelling unit. It doesn't have all of those features. Sleeping, cooking, and sanitation.
And I think we're good, like, from a administrative application, we're gonna say garage doesn't count. I just wanna make sure our definitions are good. So if you feel like defining it back, that we're covered there. That's
Yes.
what I hear you saying.
That's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
Good.
I mean, and if you don't, I mean, I'm open for adding something if we need to. I don't wanna shut the door on that.
I would just maybe say excluding space dedicated for parking of vehicles or something like that. I mean, it is gonna come up when people are trying to convert their, garage to an apartment, which they can do under state code.
Right.
At what point,
It's not a garage anymore.
it's not a garage anymore.
Right.
But other than saying because you're parking vehicles or you're not, I don't know how else you could do it. And you could simply add that at the end, excluding space dedicated for parking of vehicles or something like that. Then I think it would be totally clear.
What if we said space for parking vehicles, covered or uncovered, is not considered part of a dwelling unit?
Yeah, you could do that.
Yeah,
There you go.
not
Me?
that kind of.
You like that?
I like the way you're thinking, you must be hungry.
Dinner time.
You got some quick fingers, I know that much.
Like that?
Does that work?
Yeah.
Yep.
Perfect.
All right, I would entertain a motion regarding, well, one, we're gonna have to, actually two. So because we defined and made a recommendation for dwelling unit at the last meeting, we need a motion to modify the definition of dwelling unit. And then secondly, and I would do it as two separate ones, just for minutes purposes. And then we can vote on, or take a motion and vote on the definition of a
Definable
living area. Go ahead, you got a comment?
I just didn't think we needed to add the garage thing, 'cause we're talking about what is a dwelling unit. And that a dwelling unit doesn't have to do anything with your vehicle unless you're saying you can't live in your vehicle.
It was regarding definable living area, and it just pointed to the other one.
Right,
So I'm like, if you don't do that, then what is definable living area? So you just say leave it out entirely, and we count a garage towards square footage of living area? Is that what you're saying?
But a definable living area is defined by our definition of a dwelling unit.
Right, so then it takes us to here. And our definition of a dwelling unit does not describe the garage at all.
Correct,
Yeah.
'cause you don't live in a garage. When a garage is for a garage, you're for a vehicle.
Which putting that in there clarifies that.
But I was gonna say, in real estate, you do see a lot of people living in garage, and they will say, what's the square footage of your house? And they'll be like, oh, 2,000 square feet. Is that including the garage or not? You know what I mean? Like, we get that question asked a lot. So I do like the garage,
Okay.
put that in there, because, I mean, we do have people that go and move into the garage.
That said, when you list a home by the square footage, do you include the garage in
No.
that listing?
Yeah, you do.
So a 2,000 square foot home with a garage
Mhm.
has X amount of square foot
Yep.
garage.
Garage, Yep, correct.
My personal opinion is that that sentence about the garage does not damage the intent of the definition at all. It just is a point of clarification.
Okay, I make a motion that we modify the, definition that we approved last week, 15-04-35.
The, 020.35, sorry,
Oh, okay.
my mistake there.
15.04.020-35, dwelling unit, to also include the last sentence, space dedicated to parking vehicles, whether covered or uncovered, does not meet the definition of dwelling unit.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? The motion carries. Thank you.
So, I make a motion that we create definition of definable living area and add it to code 1504.020. Definable living area means a living area that meets the definition of a dwelling unit.
Do I have a second?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. The motion carries. Thank you. All right, on page 3, the next one to discuss is primary occupants. You might want to look at all of those together, so we're trying to define right now primary occupant or occupants, plural. And then the next one after that is owner occupancy, and then property owner.
Primary occupants.
And the reasons these are important is when you're describing that you are going to require an owner, occupant, or primary owner, property owner to be there on the property, or to, if you make any requirements along those lines, that's why those need to be defined.
Yes, exactly. Thank you, Dan.
I don't know if it would change the definition, but the context sometimes helps.
So one of the things as I stand back and read this, and I think maybe this is a question for you, Scott. So primary occupants means the owner of the dwelling and all persons related to the owner? That's a lot of people. I'm wondering do we need to insert something that says means the owner of the dwelling and all persons living in the dwelling related to the owner? 'Cause they can be related and live in Massachusetts.
Usually owner is restricted to the owner. I mean, who...
Well, we're talking occupant right now, right?
Oh. Yeah, I would say yes, it would have to be related to the owner.
Well, we have that, and I guess what I'm asking, it says, it means the owner of the dwelling and all persons related to the owner. And I'm saying if we leave it at that, the owner might have a wife that lives in
third cousin in
Massachusetts,
Oshkosh.
or lives somewhere else in the world or the country. That's a pretty broad statement. The reality is that this really means they have to be living in the dwelling. So it means the owner of the dwelling and all persons living in the dwelling related to the owner. Those are the primary occupants, in my opinion.
What's the public policy? What is it that you wanna allow or restrict?
We just want a definition of who's living in the home. We're not trying to restrict anything at the moment.
By having primary occupants, it makes me wanna look for secondary occupants. I'm kinda feeling like primary, does not need to be there,
About immediate family.
And also, Larry,
just occupants.
regarding your statement about the related to, on the second part of that too, that
Mhm.
at least, and all other persons related to the leasee, again.
Yes, I agree.
That could go
That can be a lot of people.
forever.
Oh, yeah.
Probably do need to refine that.
Yeah, I think you defeat the purpose of trying to define the first part of that, or if the owner doesn't live there, the primary occupant shall mean the persons to whom, the owner has leased the dwelling and all persons related to the lessee. I guess what we're trying to restrict is what, a dormitory or turning a residential unit into a communal living or apartments or unrelated people or...
Right.
Extent of subletting, basically.
Yes. So, I mean, if we're trying to maintain the spirit of single-family, unit, I would say somebody's gotta be related to somebody who is the primary owner or the primary lessee of the dwelling unit. I think that's what that's trying to say.
Okay.
You know what I'm getting at? I mean,
Mhm.
the antithesis would be, if we had nothing, then you could have 12 people living there not related to anybody, either the registered owner or the lessee from the owner. I think that's trying to say, we want people related to somebody.
Would immediate family help any? So
Pardon me?
wouldn't adding immediate family help? That way you would limit it.
Well, now that we've defined family, back on page 1,
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be related.
yeah, you'd have to go look at that definition. Because, well, typically in Utah, again, the family can live in the home, but you can have up to 2 or 3 other non-related people living in the residence, and that's where we're gonna end up when we start writing code. We just haven't talked about what that number is in the city of Parowan. Thoughts?
I think it defines it as well as you can define it without
Okay.
making it 12 pages long. You could add garage.
Thank you. Well, with that piece of wisdom, I'll entertain a motion for the definition of primary occupants.
I hear 'em spinning.
You know, there's another, you could throw another fly in the ointment it says the occupants can be whom the owner has leased. What if they haven't had a lease with them?
Right.
Well, then depending on what the issue is and why we would be looking at that, they would likely be in violation of code. If they don't have a lease, don't have a
If they
rental,
did-
if somebody has a rental agreement, I think we're gonna call that a lease. I think we wouldn't take issue with that.
Maybe somebody just allows somebody to live there.
Well, you know what, and as I read the owner occupancy and property owner, those are rock solid, those are right dead on. So as a primary occupant, would you not have some of the same statistics? Would you not have your registration, driver's license registered under that address? Would you not have your voter registration under that address, et cetera? Isn't that almost mirrored? The primary occupant / owner occupancy is almost a mirror image, is it not?
Well, it is, however, when you get into short-term rental code, that's less than 30 days. You're not gonna change your driver's license and all of that stuff in a circumstance where it's a short-term rental.
Oh.
Long-term, I agree,
Okay.
it should be changed.
Point taken.
But a short-term rental, you may not have a lease, you just have an agreement, I guess.
Well, I think,
Might be verbal.
well, you're gonna have some kind of a contract. And if you're suggesting that we change the word
I don't, I've
leased
just,
to.
you know, you're getting into it all, you do what you want.
Dan, do you have comments about what the, issues that you may arise if we don't modify that or we do modify that statement? I mean, are we just pissing up a rope here, guys, or what? I'm sorry, excuse my French. That's off the record, by the way, Stacy.
Jerry, it's not.
I didn't say the word piss, I said whiz. Oh, I can't say that either.
Only you could get away with that, Larry.
Larry?
I'll tell the bishop.
I'm thinking that it should be tied back to your definition of single family, and whether it's the owner of the property or whether it is per se renters. Because the thing is that what you're trying to do is, when defining if someone's gonna have an internal ADU, the owner occupant has to live in one of the two units, whether it's the quote-unquote smaller space or the larger space. So they wouldn't be a primary occupant if they're renting external, internal ADU. They would just be occupants of that unit. And whether it's our code is gonna have that the owner has to occupy one of those two units.
But you still need a primary occupant of the other house. You're still gonna have.
I don't think the word primary is necessary. I think it just needs to be an occupant. And that occupant then would fall to our definition of single family. Whether it's an individual, whether it's
But if you don't have primary in there, an occupant, then, okay, my daughter is an occupant of the house. I don't know.
well, it would be any dwelling unit.
Building
It would not-
responsible, yeah,
Primary would mean who holds the lease,
yeah,
so.
I like the primary one in there.
All right, one more time, we'll, go. There's a motion, there's a lot of ways to do that. One is you take it as is and you accept it, reject it,
Run with it.
table it, modify it.
All right, I make a motion to accept the primary occupants as written in our notes and adopt that.
And add it to our,
And add it
it'd be
to
1504.020.
1504.020.
Do I have a second?
I second the motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Nay.
Any opposed?
Nay.
The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you. Next definition is owner occupancy.
That's what I'm saying. That's why I feel like it should be tied in.
I can only do one at a time.
Right. No, anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, the next one we're working on is owner occupancy. As written, it says means a property where the property owner, as reflected in the title records, makes his or her legal residence at the site, as evidenced by voter registration, vehicle registration, driver's license, county assessor records, or similar means.
I
Do
make
we
a,
need that last line as evidenced by voter? Like, is that necessary?
Or similar means, just some way of verifying that they really are the owner and they really occupy it.
Okay,
it's one of the many, just, you don't have to,
all right.
It-
Yeah,
Yeah.
similar means,
any of the above.
yeah, similar means,
Yeah.
I just didn't know.
I
if
make a
that was-
motion, we keep it just the way it is, 1504.020. Geraldo.
A good question.
I second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any nays? Motion carries. Thank you. Last one. Property owner means the owner of a property as reflected in official property title records.
I make a motion, we remain it just the same.
There's a motion on the table. Is there any discussion?
Nope.
Second it, Jamie.
Gotta have
Come on,
a
Bill.
second.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're opposed or no?
No,
Oh.
sorry. Aye.
The ayes have it. Motion carries. Thank you. At this point, I'm pretty satisfied with where we are with this. And would suggest that we move on into member reports. Start with Dan.
Just as a reminder, this week, if you still wanted to register for the land use training online for Friday, feel free, I can get you registered. It's an all-day training, but it is, online, $50. I can register with a city card if you wanted to attend that.
That's Friday.
We'll bring back, it's this Friday, we'll bring back notes from the meeting, important stuff, and report it to the group, but that's gonna be obviously Cliff Notes version. So, but it's a whole day if you wanted to attend it, all day Friday. Next week, we will have, our next meeting, we'll have building permit for the other terribles at exit 78 for review. I'll send out all the documentation so you can look at that.
Is that what that email was about today?
Mhm.
I didn't realize.
We're gonna have two.
I didn't see that.
We're gonna have three,
Two
three
terribles.
gas stations. Two terribles, is that what you just said?
Two,
I thought there was
Mhm.
one terrible.
One on north.
Two terribles and a Maverick.
oh,
A terribles at this exit, and a terribles at that exit.
Why do they want two so fast in such a small?
I don't know. They bought the property, and we've been working with them on a submittal for a building permit. We've been working with them for quite a while.
So can you tell us just status of the terribles at exit 75 and the Maverick at
We're just waiting for them to pay their fees.
Okay.
Nobody's backed out?
No, we're just waiting for them to pay their fees, and, my understanding, they haven't done that yet. They've been exit 75, it's a part of a commercial subdivision, and they're working together to figure out exactly between the owners of the subdivision, who pays for what part of the infrastructure and so forth. They're trying to finish negotiations on that. And as soon as, I expect any day that they'll get that resolved, they'll cut us a check and they'll go off and get a building permit. That's already been finished by us.
And the Maverick on the other side?
Maverick on the other side is, it's just waiting for a vote from the city council. We haven't taken it to the city council. We have had the public hearing, but we're waiting for the annexation agreement to be signed by them. And there was just a few last minute things that came in on the storm drain because of some UDOT requirements, so we had to modify it, and we're just waiting for them to agree to that annexation agreement, and we'll bring that to city council for a vote on the annexation. Then, if it annexes, then Maverick will come in for a building permit. We'll have to go through their whole process to get their site ready for a building permit. That's where the Maverick is. Terrible's is done, we just don't have a check on exit 78. Once they bring in their check, then they'll go for a building permit from the county. Ace Hardware is in the exact same circumstance. We're just waiting for their check, and then they'll go to the county for a building permit. And this Terrible's will have to process their, we've worked with them back and forth, our engineer, our public works, power. We've been working with them for probably a year and a half. There was no subdivision there needed. They did a lot line adjustment a while back, but this is the first time that they have, that's the part of the public process to get and if it's just a commercial, building permit, there's no zone change, no anything other than just a building permit. So they've just gotta demonstrate that they meet our code, and we've been working with them a lot to get them to that point.
I'm assuming that one's in the southbound direction, the other's in the northbound direction, correct? I mean, it seems to me they're competing against each other.
But they're owned by the same family, so that's just their intent. And Maverick and Terrible's are both they're in build-out phase. They're building out up I-15, both of them are. They're competing for real estate, and you see them across the street from each other all through. And so they're comfortable with that. They're comfortable with having, both of them are comfortable with having two, because we already do have one Maverick. And so essentially, they are competing with each other's companies, but their own sites. Doesn't matter if they're competing, deciding to spend that kind of money. So we'll get, some additional infrastructure, some additional property tax, and, hopefully their sales tax, hopefully they're successful, and, because that will be a good, built out of infrastructure. You know, they put in a lot of money into these sites, and hopefully they're successful, and we'll get some additional revenue and amenities.
Cool, thanks, Dan.
This one won't have any additional, it'll have a car wash, but that's it. There won't be any restaurant or anything like that with that site, on the north one. It'll just be the gas station and a car wash.
Cool. Thank you for the update. Weston,
South one has a car wash as well.
What's that?
updates?
Nothing to say.
Okay.
You're not gonna open up another Reese Automotive on the other side of town?
No.
Come on, man.
1 and 2.
Heather?
No, I have nothing.
Jerry?
Nothing?
I think,
No.
Dave? Thank you. And I also have nothing.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Do I have a second?
Second?
All in favor of adjourning?
I.
Aye.
Thank you very much. We're adjourned.
7:34 PM.
All I was saying was is that I didn't like how that definition was written, and that